We had always 20 seconds excerpts of music of the beginning of Susan Vega's Tom Steiner, and what I thought was pretty good destroyed Susan Vega's voice. It just could end up in the libraries, like most PhD thesis work, and it might become a standard which is used by millions of people. That I was off by a factor of 1,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the last session of CloudFest. But we promise you we will make it extremely exciting for you. Do we have some music connoisseurs in the audience? Yes, for sure. Karlheinz, you were the driving force behind some of today's most innovative inventions around audio. You co-invented MP3, MPEG formats. In general, a pioneer in digital audio coding. You have more than 100 patents already registered in your name. Thanks for being here with us today. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's do a little bit of storytelling. Let's go back in time and find out how this whole thing around MP3 got started. So what I learned is that this MP3 project was born when your professor basically had an idea kind of similar what we know as Spotify nowadays, a digital jukebox which is as accessible from anywhere. Let us know a little bit more about this initial idea and how it got off.
In fact, that was the time when ISDN, who still remembers ISDN here? Yeah, when that was new, and it said Integrated Services Digital Network, but in the beginning it was just about speech. And he had the idea, no, we could use ISDN to transmit music to people's homes. And there was a patent examiner, he applied for a patent on that. The patent examiner said, no, according to the state of the art, this is not possible. You need much higher bit rates. So I was there at his chair doing my diploma thesis, and he was looking for somebody who could look more into that. So the original task I was given was check out at which bit rate, which quality is possible in the end. Mm-hmm. And our group in Erlangen was not the only one. There were others, but there was no breakthrough yet. There were different tries to do this, but it was a couple of years of trying, listening. Mm-hmm. We had early on to find out that no standard digital signal processing optimization doesn't work for audio. You have to listen over and over again to see how it works. And then, in fact, at some point in time, there was a European effort to establish digital audio broadcasting as a service. Nowadays we have it, but it took much longer than people envisaged. And for that, we got a lot of public funding, not just Fraunhofer in Erlangen, and from that the university, but a number of other labs and industries throughout Europe who work together to do all the different topics needed for digital audio broadcasting.
Interesting. So from inspiration to execution. So you're sitting in Erlangen. You think you will make this breakthrough happen. How did you secure your budget? How did you got your team together? How did you kick it off?
Oh, in the first quite many years, I didn't have to think about a budget because I was financed.
Okay.
And from there was Heinz Gerhäuser, who was later director of Fraunhofer IIS in Erlangen, who took care of all these things, doing the negotiation to get more budget, to get more people involved in it, and so on. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I was just the nerd, the researcher who was there typing. In fact, some might still remember that was Fortran for the software. No C yet, no Python, and so on, but really Fortran to try how to compress the music from a very limited set of possible music pieces we had on the computer. That was a mini computer, and yeah, I think a total, including all software and everything, of 140 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes.
Yeah, interesting. So obviously it wasn't you alone who created the MP3 standard. Like, what would you say, like, what was your core team? Or how was your team structure looking like?
The core team evolved quite a bit over time. So first, there were students who just happened to do the diploma thesis with me as a direct supervisor. And it took some time until we get the financing that some of them could continue to work as a team. And that was a small number of people, like 5, 6, 7. In fact, not that small if we look around how large other teams in the world have been who were our competitors. There was nobody who had more work on it.
So, and what kind of song did you use? Like, what kind of song did you use to learn the format, to advance?
The big problem was not to have something which could get music compressed and then listen to it again and it sounds nice. That was the easy part. But to have the same thing for every kind of music, that was then difficult. So that's why, in fact, in the team, basically everybody was some sort of musician or had some connection to music. And that early on, when I was still at the university, I got from some research project some money, and I just went into the record store. CDs were just very young and very expensive. And I told people there, look, I have 2,000 D-Mark and I want to buy CDs of different kinds of music, because we couldn't know yet what would be easy, what not. So we just had some ideas. We were in exchange with others in this DAB project who had some ideas what could be more difficult as well. And in the end, for my PhD thesis, there was then a list of 20 different musical pieces, ranging from some da-da-da-da, single voices, to instruments, to castanets, very difficult still today for MP3, and so on. And of course, if your question targets the well-famous and often told story of Tom Steiner by Susan Vega, yes, that was...
and why did you use this song specifically?
Yeah, I, of course, looked through hi-fi journals and found that in some journals they use this song to test loudspeakers. And you all know loudspeakers are in a home environment the most critical equipment. That's where you could really spend a lot of money and make sense. So they described and had the title of this CD and of this song. And I did talk internally about it. Another colleague at one point in time came up with a CD. I said, okay, let's try what happens to our algorithm, which already was quite good for nearly everything. And we had this short excerpt. We had always 20 seconds excerpts of music of the beginning of Susan Vega's Tom Steiner in the a cappella version. And what we thought and what I thought was pretty good destroyed Susan Vega's voice. So that was really something we had to work on. And it took from that time, I think, half a year or so until we found some ideas how it worked much better, and another year until it was really no problem anymore.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know the song by name, it's this. Everyone knows this song. It's such an earworm. When I listen to this in the radio, it's like it's stuck in my head for a week thereafter. How did you deal with that, like listening to that song so many times?
I have to say I like this kind of music. I like her voice. I met Susan Vega twice over the years. Mm-hmm. And that way I was... there were other pieces which were more like torture. Mm. Susan Vega's voice was nice to listen to. And the other thing is, what's interesting, it's a cappella with a little bit of room on it and a little bit of noises. And later on, I heard her performing this song in a live event, and it was unbelievable. It sounded exact. Of course, I knew this song in and out, every detail. And in the live performance, it sounded exactly the same.
Perfect. Okay. So the CloudFest team made a little surprise because I think you definitely changed our life, how we consume music nowadays, and we're very thankful for that. And we wrote a little homage to MP3 and to you. And it's not called Tom Steiner anymore, it's called now Karlheinz Steiner. So for this, please welcome our Susan Vega avatar, Andrea from Randy Club.
Okay. And it's a cappella as well.
Yes, sure. Once upon a time, your music was just stuck inside your bedroom. You played records and you flipped them every 15 minutes. And back when you had cassette tapes, you would always need a pencil. When the DJ played your favorite song, quickly hit record. Compact discs were so much easier, but they skip inside your Discman. But now it was really simple to play music in your laptop. Should I mention mini disc at all? Don't you think you even had them? Which is really quite a shame, because think they're pretty cool. MP3 then took your music and it put it in your pocket, your computer and your mobile and your car and on the airplane. Make a record in your bedroom and then share it with the world. When we want cassettes with pencil, could we ever picture this? You can thank a guy called Karlheinz.
Yay!
And his team for all the music that you carry in your pocket. From your bedroom to the airplane. You're about to meet him right now, right here on the stage at CloudFest. He's coming now to join us, so won't you give him a hand? And now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand up for Karlheinz. Everybody.
You can be.
And sing with me. Da 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 da. Sing a bit louder. Da 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 da. Thank you, Mr. Brandenburg. Thank you.
Yeah, Karlheinz, did we have a conference where you spoke earlier this week also had such an amazing audience?
Not that many people, but with the new technology we are doing these times, we got some great impressions on people's faces when they realized what's really possible with that.
Yes, that's true, that's true. Okay, let's go on with our interview. We have a couple more questions to you. So, MP3 got invented deep in Germany, but the value chain was in the US. Apple...
Not only.
Not only.
Not only.
Yeah? How do you see that?
It was a time when the big German consumer electronics companies already had dissolved them, mostly. And it was a time when others just tried to do other things. So, in fact, there were German companies who first used MP3 for professional purposes, like an announcement system in trams and buses. So that was already some income for the group at Fraunhofer, which, of course, we always had to look for. And then, of course, it was going around the world, trying to sell the ideas, trying to license the technology. And yeah, we've been successful in a worldwide sense. In fact, the first time really the press got hold of that idea was from a conference in the US as well. And then people in Germany said, oh, that's a story we could use as well. And if, in the sense of who made money from that, Fraunhofer is a non-for-profit company which has to work with industry. So to build devices and sell them directly to customer is forbidden. The only business model possible is to license that. And for that, we tried to find licensees all around the world and have been very successful in terms of published income, I think, for Fraunhofer with MP3 and taking in AAC and other newer stuff as well. It's been more than 1 billion, mehr als 1 Milliarde of money in terms of patent licensing fees. And that's something I'm really proud of.
You're proud of that. Yes. Yeah. Well, you're sitting here with cloud service providers, attendees, audience, which works on internet infrastructure, which is basically the other side of the whole ecosystem which got created, the hardware side on one hand with your formats which you created, on the other side what we are building, the cloud component. Yeah? Would you have ever imagined like that this is coming this way?
Oh, I think relatively early, before the standard was finalized, somebody asked me what will become of this. Another professor visiting us in Erlangen. And my answer at that time was, okay, it just could end up in the libraries, like most PhD thesis work, and it might become a standard which is used by millions of people. That I was off by a factor of 1,000. Literally billions of people. That I didn't think, I have to admit. And of course, there were some things we expected to happen, and other things like podcasts, where people then having great ideas how to use this technology in a way which wasn't envisaged in the early days.
Understand. So we talked a little bit about the past. Let's talk about the things you're doing nowadays. So you have your startup, I think you called it when we first talked, Brandenburg Labs. you're an audio connoisseur, so I assume you're working on amazing things at the moment.
Exactly, that's what we say.
Share that with us,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. In fact, over time, I went from Erlangen to Ilmenau, and there we already did a lot of work on spatial audio using many loudspeakers with a technology called wavefield synthesis, originally invented at Delft in the Netherlands. And yeah, unfortunately, it was not that big a commercial success, but there are even some very well-known systems these days, like the Sphere in Las Vegas, which basically could do this. The content is not what it should be, but it could do this. And then when 5.5 years ago, Fraunhofer told me that I reached the end of my contract because of age reasons, I thought, no, but there was always the other idea. One is to get immersive sound via many loudspeakers, and the other one is to do the same thing over headphones. And that's something people had researched for 50 plus years. Don't know whether here anybody still remembers dummy head stereophony in the 70s or so, but it never worked as advertised. And people continued researching, it never worked as advertised. So as a university professor, I already had a couple of PhD candidates which looked at why this didn't work before, and we got some idea what people had overseen before. And then with the new company, I took these ideas, including some other ideas we had. We already had one patent at Fraunhofer as well on these things, and built a system where you can have headphones on. And what I said this week, I've got that again, is our proof of concept was that we have loudspeakers at some point. We play some music over these loudspeakers. Then we give people the headphones with 6 degrees of freedom head tracking. And we tell people, okay, now continue moving around and tell us, what do you hear, the loudspeakers or the headphones? And then people say, no, of course, still the loudspeakers. I said, okay, take off the headphone, and it's completely quiet. So it's plausible, it's the same as the sound as it should be in a way which hasn't been possible before. And of course, with that, you can even do multi-channel sound.
So you think you solved the spatial audio problem?
Yes,
Yes?
definitely. Once people tell me, okay, look, but Apple tries that, and Dolby tries that, and Meta tries that, what's the difference from these systems to yours? My simple answer is, ours works. And I do this when people just had the demo and nobody disagreed yet with me. So that's a good thing. Of course, now we are at the stage where we're selling to professionals, for studios and so on. We want to raise money to get the same thing into real headphones with the tracking done in a different way. But that's work for the next 1.5 to 2 years. End of next year, we want to have the first version of these headphones for people who want the newest gadgets in audio and spend a lot of money on it.
Okay, perfect. I think you have some fans here who will be early
please.
adopters.
Okay.
Okay, we are waiting for that. What for you is seemingly an impossible challenge, whose solution is just something which is completely out of reach in your space, where you need a lot of inspiration, a lot of thought. What is going on in your head, What is the next problem you really like to solve?
Oh, there are some things which are theoretically impossible, but people ask me about it over and over again. One is noise cancelling. I get over and over again the question, can't you invent something where there's one loudspeaker in my room and all the noise from outside gets cancelled? No. It's impossible for physical reasons. You need to get a real wave field again, and that can't be done with just one loudspeaker. And the other one is in our field. In fact, even internally, I always get the question, oh, can't you do a demo of your spatial audio system over YouTube or such? No. You need to know more. You need to know how our brain works, to know the acoustics of the room, and especially you need the 6 degrees of freedom, not just turning your head, as we see it already quite some places, but really 6 degrees of freedom, including moving around, and then you can get this great illusion of the sound coming from somewhere else.
That's fascinating. And this was very inspirational. So we hope that you file another hundreds of patents and see more products coming out.
In fact, I have a
work.
great team of young people, and nowadays they file the patents.
Okay, perfect. Please, a big welcome to Karlheinz Brandenburg for being here with us. Thank you.